Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on bringing together BIM and GIS, an intertwined workflow-based presentation. I'm Vivek Ramesh. I'm the Technical Solutions Manager with Autodesk. And before we get on with the presentation itself, I would want to remind you that towards the end of the presentation, during the Q&A, our moderator will have you answer 4 poll questions. Please participate in all the 4 poll questions. There are exciting prizes to be won during if you've answered all the polls. So please do not miss the poll questions towards the end of this webinar. And yes, not to forget, stay safe from COVID-19. If anyone, please do not give in to rumors. If you have any queries, please log into who.int and find necessary information or vital information around avoiding COVID-19. Please stay safe in your workspaces and during transit as well. Yeah, before we even get into the intertwined workflow kind of a discussion, I would want to let you know that we tend to emphasize on this part in all the presentations. These are some of the industry trends that we're having as we move forward into the next decade. So every day we expect 200,000 people moving into cities. So a majority of the container of human population will be cities. Up to 70% of the population is likely to be based out of cities going forward. And with that, it has a huge impact on the kind of infrastructure that we need to develop for the cities in order to manage the population coming in. With respect to that, I mean, there's about 13,000 buildings that need to be built every day with a capacity of at least 500. That is the kind of demand that we have going forward. And of course, there are ever-changing economic cycles, as you've always seen, that we need to battle with. But then the show must go on, as they say. And the infrastructure spend directly in say up until about 2030 is about $3.7 trillion just for the infrastructure spend alone, providing better infrastructure and connectivity. And there's always an ever-increasing complexity in the projects that we handle in today's date, as it was 10 years ago. So this is where we need to leverage on the existing technologies and have a symbiotic relationship between the technologies, the up-to-date technologies and the technology that was available with us, say, about 10 years ago. So as you know, BIM is the buzzword in today's date. It provides us with a great repository of information on the existing, design, and it provides us a plethora of information on operations and maintenance for infrastructure as well. Well, BIM in its isolation cannot be meaningful if it's not related to the science of where. Where does your building lie? Where does your bridge lie with respect to the existing infrastructure around it? So we need to tie it in with the GIS story, because the science, Autodesk is all about make anything, and GIS is all about make anywhere. So the science of making anything anywhere is the combination of BIM plus GIS. Earlier, it used to be a very unilateral kind of data flow between GIS to the design workflows, or for that matter, from design workflows back to GIS for asset management purposes. We only had a one-way channel to get the data through. Now things are changing rapidly, and we will see why. As you're always aware, data is at the center of, or the crux of, a BIM plus GIS workflow. So it enables us to take smarter decisions, and therefore we have better outcomes from our design. And as I always reiterate, there are 4 stages in an infrastructure life cycle, be it horizontal or vertical infrastructure: design, build, operate, and plan. So we need to know how and when we need to have the data interact with the GIS aspect and GIS aspect with the BIM aspect at what stages. That is where the next slide talks about. So there are primarily, two cycles to a project. One is the capital projects, or the project itself, where you're doing project planning, you're doing project design, you're handing over the design data to contractors to build, and the contractors do a commissioning and handing over to the owners. But this data flows into the owners, that is where GIS data will have its full potential with asset management, revenue generation, and master planning purposes, say future expansions of cities and towns, and then having regulation and permitting around the existing infrastructure and how it needs to be augmented for future growth as well. So this is where we need to tie in properly. So in connection to the earlier, just a minute, I think I have a message. Let me lead it through. Okay. So in connection to the earlier slide, there is a clear demarcation between where where BIM and GIS, have that nexus. So BIM is strong on project planning, design, build, and commissioning and handoff, right? These are the 4 stages where all your BIM related software will come into the picture. Well, once it has been commissioned and handed over, the operation and plan aspects will always have the GIS aspect. No project, no infrastructure projects in today's state starts off without assessing the GIS data, be it master planning, regulation and permitting, or for that matter, after the project has been completed, asset management and monitoring and enforcement. So these are the stages which you need to know that we should have BIM or either BIM or GIS, and this is where they connect. So I won't get into the details of the stages of the asset life cycle, but here we are here to focus on the solutions that we have on hand, the Autodesk set of portfolio solutions that we have, particularly which help us with project planning. The best, it allows us to assess the best available existing conditions and what are the repercussions of the project on the existing conditions, and generate multiple alternatives for the stakeholders to better understand the project, because most of our projects are stuck in design alternatives and approvals of design alternatives. And a broader stakeholder review, we can bring in more stakeholders into the project and have a better assessment of the project and have quicker approvals as well. And to the end of it, of course, client review and approval in today's date cannot be done on CAD drawings. It needs to have a comprehensive 3D coordinated model in order to have a proper review and approval, because many people may not understand the CAD language at the administrative level. So this is where we expand on. Well, rather than calling it a building information model, it's like project information model. If you see any infrastructure project, it is a multidisciplinary model. So it needs to have a range of inputs fed into the project even before we get into the design stage. It has GIS information, reality capture, IoT, you name it, and all the information has to be fed into the project information model. So to come to the crux of it, the first and foremost thing that you're likely to take up in any infrastructure project is the existing conditions capture. Without existing conditions capture, you may not have any data to work on. Here, InfraWorks with a combination of Recap 360 helps us capture existing conditions as is in the most accurate manner, and InfraWorks will further help us identify the various infrastructure that is available even before you start off start off on the project. Say, for example, you want an assessment of the number of light poles, or you want to have the assessment of number of trees that are likely to be affected during the new project proposal. You will have an idea on that. And modeling the existing conditions for usage in CAD is the most important aspect, and InfraWorks allows you to capture existing information in terms of linear feature extractions, object extractions, and things like that. So linear feature could include center line of the road, edge of the road, center line, edge of the drain, edge of the median, and things like that. These are crucial points along any infrastructure project that are likely to play a big part in design as well. So this data can be further taken into detailed engineering software such as Civil 3D in order to fine-tune your design for your project proposals. So coming to the IoT, when you talk about smart cities or smart infra, without IoT, I don't think anything is a smart infrastructure or smart city is not complete. It's basically sensorizing your assets. So, for example, I mean, you have a building here. In this example, we have Dasher 360, research project that ArcGIS has taken up. Here, we have just sensorized a part of the building which measures light in terms of lux. You have cubicle usages, you have AC measurements, things like that. So all these things can be sensorized and be updated onto a dashboard so that you know how your building is performing with respect to the existing environment. So not only this, see, this is just a building perspective that we have here, but see, in the holistic manner, we also need to know how this building behaves with respect to the existing environment. That is, where is it in the geographical space? What is around this building? Do you have hills? Do you have trees? Do you have other big buildings impacting this building? We need to know all the the related data with respect to the building itself. So further down, we are looking at integrating this kind of IoT of things into InfraWorks so that we know the science of where as well. Exactly where this building lies, what are the sensorizations in this building, so on and so forth. So this can also be utilized. So for example, I'll give an example of air quality monitors or rain gauges across the city. Where do you have rain gauges across the city? Where do you have air quality monitors? And which area is the worst in terms of air quality index? So for example, if I pass, on route to home from office, I noticed that there is a specific place called Hudson Circle in Bangalore where I live, where it has an air quality index, the noise index of that particular that place, that particular junction. These kind of quality monitoring, measurement tools or sensors can be placed across everywhere in the city, and public will be able to identify what's going on where. So again, GIS and BIM need to be an integrated workflow going forward. Last year, I'm sure many of you attended this BIM plus GIS webinar that I delivered, but we have more to offer this time. If you see, last time we only had a few talking points. If you see, we said that you were able to log into arcgis.com and be able to consume the content, whether it is parcel data, whether it's network data or point data, directly from ArcGIS, or you will also be able to create the data and publish it to ArcGIS, then be able to consume it. So this is where we stopped. While we talk about two-way communication between GIS and BIM, we were only halfway there when it came to this level. Of course, we had to start off somewhere. It was a good start, wherein Esri and Autodesk partnered to bring in such seamless flow of data onto InfraWorks, from ArcGIS to InfraWorks, and be able to capture various information and update the existing information in a good manner. But going forward, we also need other things to be aware of. See, when we talk about BIM plus GIS, GIS is the existing conditions capture, but what are we able to do in terms of planning? So this is an example of how GHD has created. GHD is a multidisciplinary engineering consultancy firm. How effectively they were able to impress the stakeholders on a new expansion of the railway project that we have. So they identified the ideal locations of the stations based on the population that is likely to utilize trains as a mode of travel. So, for example, many people, they knew where exactly to place the railway stations or the pass the alignment through, so that there is a lot of footfall into the project that they were designing. This helps us develop a lot of insights into how and where we need to align our infrastructure. We see in many places that infrastructure is lying unused. There is not much footfall in many cities in metro stations and metros. The reason being, I mean, there may be a difference in the way in which the data was analyzed. And not only that, the project information model or GIS model will also be able to give you real-time analysis of the existing infrastructure. So in this case, you're doing, I'm sure most of you are aware of the flood simulation module. That is an add-on module that comes with InfraWorks. With this module, the GIS model that you have, that InfraWorks model that you have, you'll be able to assess the floodings, the flood simulation for any particular waterway. Okay, here you can have resistive measures or river training measures in place wherever water is likely to overflow in a flood kind of a situation. With this comes in at a master planning level, wherein you need to take into picture the hydrology and aspects of things. So not only that, we can also have traffic simulations done on the existing model, InfraWorks model. See, this is the beauty of having a GIS and a 3D model combined. You just can't have an aerial map and in a plain terrain below that. You also need to understand the granularity of the model itself. What is the nature of the existing infrastructure? What is the impact of the population on the existing infrastructure, so that you will know what you can propose for as an improvement around that particular area. So most of you must have heard about mobility simulation that is there inside of InfraWorks, wherein it is nothing but simulating multimodal transportation. Say, for example, you can simulate pedestrian traffic moving in from a bus station to a metro station, and you can have a pedestrian simulation across a zebra crossing to see the impact of piling up of existing, piling up of vehicles along that road. Or you can also assess the kind of queuing at various kiosks at airports, at metro station kiosks, ticketing kiosks, and so on and so forth, so that you know what kind of spaces that you're providing for the kind of inflow of people utilizing that particular infrastructure. So that was about analysis and simulation. And talking about the sustainability aspects, there is a plugin available for InfraWorks, which allows you to assess the kind of stormwater infrastructure required for that particular area of study. So in this case, you're dividing your area into buildings, green spaces, concrete spaces. There might be many kinds of surfaces in a particular urban landscape. There will be a lot of mixed landscape. So you'll be able to assess the right kind of mix of facilities that you need to provide. What is the percentage of natural spaces, open spaces that need to let out? What is the kind of lawns or area of lawns that you need to maintain in a particular infrastructure to neutralize the effect of stormwater collection as well, so that it doesn't overflow. And not only that, people are also doing energy analysis mapping, so that you know which areas are consuming more energy, which areas are consuming lesser energy in a particular cityscape, and what is the kind of lighting available, so that you can have regulations and monitorings of particular locality. There are many high rises, you may not want to suggest another high rise, things like that. Or there's a lot of energy consumption coming in from a particular block in a city, you may want to not approve of any new projects coming in to that particular area. So visualization, of course, as you know, InfraWorks is probably one of the easiest to visualize when you have your existing infrastructure come in. It has been very well approved for a visualization of existing infrastructure, and project approvals and client buy-ins will become very easy using InfraWorks as well. So where are we headed in terms of the ArcGIS, the BIM and GIS story? In this video, you'll be able to see that on the left-hand side, there is a GIS website or a map scene, wherein you will be able to click on any one particular infrastructure and get information about it. So, for example, there is a bridge or there are light poles. You want to get documentation related to that. You will be directly able to open it from BIM 360 from the ArcGIS web app as well. So if there is a specific building footprint that you click on, it should open up the 3D model of that particular building and be able to give you all the characteristics of that particular building. You should be able to view and review, and also be able to view all the necessary documentation for that particular building. From an asset management perspective, this is of utmost importance. Think you're the administrator, of a particular development authority, how much value this kind of system will give you or your workforce. They'll be able to update the information right on the go. This is where we intend to the infrastructure to be at. Many people are already in the process of developing such modules with BIM and GIS as well, intertwined together. So that was about the story of a project information model and what all we could do with a GIS and a BIM model together. There was a planning, there was analysis, there was sustainability, IoT, and so on and so forth. But with respect to Autodesk partnership with Esri, how well have we progressed in terms of data transfer or in terms of features that have been added to the ArcGIS connector? The ArcGIS connector alone will serve as a single conduit for you to move your GIS models over to BIM and BIM models over to GIS. This is a single window method used for InfraWorks as well as Civil 3D. Most of you know that there is an ArcGIS connector for BIM InfraWorks as well as Civil 3D. So in this case, you're importing the data from ArcGIS server. You're here. This is an example of a pipe network being imported into the existing or the proposed infrastructure, so that you plan around the existing infrastructure. You don't disturb the existing infrastructure unless it is mandated to be removed. Otherwise, you just design around it. So it's all about mapping various styles, various values from the existing infrastructure that you bring in from GIS. Once you map it, it should be visible in your InfraWorks window. If you see, you need to be in the engineering view and InfraWorks to be able to view it in full 3D. When you normally rotate it, you'll have to have assigned styles and values for both pipes and structures in pipe networks. And once they have been set, you'll be able to view the entire infrastructure, existing infrastructure that is lying alongside your project. So that said, say for example, there may be situations where you may want to move your existing infrastructure to another point. That can also be done using InfraWorks or Civil 3D. In this case, if you see the GIS information that has been brought from ArcGIS comes in as a separate property window for you to be able to view and edit. The window is pretty similar for Civil 3D as well. You click on the ArcGIS connector. Again, it takes you to the same interface in arcgis.com, and you need to have an account there, obviously. And then once you go into My Content, you will be able to see the kind of content that you've generated for consumption. Here in this case, we're importing pipes and structures. You just click on the view button there, and then you have a schema mapping. InfraWorks is a much more simpler way to bring it in, but then here in Civil 3D, you will need to map the schema. What is the start and what is the nomenclature for start in what elevation for a structure, end in what elevation for a structure and pipe, and so on and so forth. Once you map it, it reads from the GIS data and imports it as 3D entities inside of your Civil 3D. So it's basically the same methodology with a slight change in the wizards that you use. Civil 3D is much more detailed wizard because you are into detail engineering at this point. You may want profiles generated out of this pipe network for consumption, or you may want to send it to contractors to be reviewed at site and things like that. So importing ArcGIS data is easier than ever, and going into the next one, the biggest change that has occurred ever since my last presentation was to have the ArcGIS save back feature and edit attribute feature. The beauty of this is, so for example, if you see an existing infrastructure or proposed infrastructure coming in from ArcGIS, and then you move a structure, you move a manhole away from your existing infrastructure, that has to reflect in your ArcGIS. This was not available before. Now, the beauty of the ArcGIS connector updates is that we're able to save back the changes that you make in your CAD environment or modeling environment like InfraWorks. So not only are the attributes, not only the attributes can be changed, but the exact location of the changes that have been made, geometric changes that have been made, will also get reflected in arcgis.com. So this has had a lot of positive feedback from us, wherein customers are telling us that this is it has become a breeze to move ArcGIS data into InfraWorks or Civil 3D, and then be able to change something in InfraWorks or Civil 3D and then publish it back to ArcGIS. So the asset data is much more enriched and up to date. This was never the case. You see, you have a save back button there on the pipe networks. Once you make the changes, you just have to have a save back clicked, and you just refresh your arcgis.com website, and all the changes that have been occurred will come through in your ArcGIS website as well. So not only that, you will be able to update the sizes of the infrastructure as well. Say, for example, you're changing the pipe dia from 3 to 3.5. It should definitely reflect in the GIS data itself. From the GIS data or vice versa, there should always be a two-way communication between GIS and BIM. When we bring it into InfraWorks and Civil 3D, it becomes a BIM entity. When you publish it back to ArcGIS, it becomes a GIS entity. This, if I were to have the same conversation about 3-4 years ago, it would be such a difficult task to convince customers as to how to publish BIM or 3D models or existing infrastructure over to the GIS space. It was never a conversation to be had. Now, see how seamless it has become to have BIM models to become GIS models themselves. and have all the data captured onto the GIS space as well. Even here in Civil 3D, you have a data source manager in which you tell the software which data source you want to import, whether it's pipe network, whether it's parcels, pipes, things like that. Then you update it onto the ArcGIS website. So this was one of the key things that came through with the upcoming releases. It's already available for you to use, and ArcGIS Connector adding conceptual models. Say for example, you have an existing network, and when you bring it into things like InfraWorks and Civil 3D, obviously you're going to propose something new to be attached to the existing infrastructure, right? Or you might have your own network or conceptual models that need to be placed on the GIS space. So how do you do it? Now here also, again, it's as simple as getting the data from ArcGIS. This is the existing network that you see on ArcGIS that you want to bring it into Civil 3D. And then, say for example, you want to attach the new network to the old network. It is a normal run-of-the-mill method where you use in Civil 3D, where you create a pipe network. Once you create a pipe network, you only need to connect it to the old infrastructure. Once you connect it to the old infrastructure, the software understands the GIS aspects of this conceptual model, and it can directly be published. Now, Civil 3D, I have tried it on my own, and believe me, the kind of ease with which you can publish pipe networks over to ArcGIS, server is ArcGIS.com is seamless, and it works like a charm. Here, you just need to select the kind of entities that you're pushing to ArcGIS.com. You can see the categories there, and then just have the layers mapped, and then push it. Service name, and you have a tag number for that for your ArcGIS searches as well. Then you push it. Once you publish it, the conceptual design models will also be updated in your ArcGIS website. So all you need to do is refresh it, and your new network comes in as it is. All the properties and attributes come alongside along with it. So that is the ease with which you can have data coming to and from ArcGIS. So there was one other aspect. So this probably is one of the most important aspects that you might have in ArcGIS, ArcGIS Connector. Many people were asking us that, are we able to add custom attributes to the existing infrastructure? How good are the custom attributes? So earlier, of course, creating custom attributes to pipe networks in Civil 3D was quite a task. Now it is a breeze. Now you go to the style manager in Civil 3D and you create your own styles. So for example, you have different parameters such as who was it installed by, when was the installation date, what is the kind of structure that, what is the kind of facility that we need to attach it to. So you can apply the properties directly to specific infrastructure. In this case, we have created attributes for structures, and then you just apply the property sets over to the selected infrastructure. In this case, you said proposed manholes, you created a set of infrastructure. You have the asset condition, it is in good condition, and when was the installation date, and which contractor installed it. So this is vital information for the owners. Say for example, if it is a water supply company or water supply and sewage boards and things like that, on the go they'll be able to assess from ArcGIS as to what the existing condition of the infrastructure is. And one more thing is, again, you can publish it with newly added attributes as well. and you just have to go to the particular area. Once you've set your GIS locations, you just need to publish and tell the ArcGIS layer name and then tag it. And once you publish it, all the attributed information will be pushed to ArcGIS. In Civil 3D, you have a view and ArcGIS option in which once you log in, it should show you the exactly published objects. See, in this case, you have the attributes coming in to the proposed infrastructure as well. Imagine the kind of power that gives you uh, when you are already modeling a particular infrastructure. You are able to add custom attributes for the owners to utilize it or the contractors to update it. And this becomes a fully updated model, a two-way updated model, which will have no ambiguities at all. So, for example, in today's date, we have a lot of infrastructure which we don't know which are functioning well, which are not functioning well, who was the contractor in charge, when was it installed. We don't have a clue on the asset information. So asset information depends on client to client and infrastructure to infrastructure. In this case, we're just showing you an example of a pipe network here, wherein you can have custom attributes, which pipelines are made of cast iron, which pipelines are made of HDP, okay, and which are functional, which are not functional. Things like that can be viewed directly on your ArcGIS web app. And the beauty of ArcGIS web app is you can have a handheld device, you can load your models here, go to the exact location and be able to update the information. So for example, one manhole is not functional, you go to site or you and somebody gives you a report from site which is updated in this information, it will be reflecting back to your BIM model as well. That is the beauty of it, right? So I see questions coming in, so I suggest I'll take the questions at the end of it, because we have a 15-minute slot for the Q&A in which I'd like to answer. I hope you got a clarity of that. And coming to the last bit now, ArcGIS web map. So once you have your existing infrastructure, you need to stylize it. Say, for example, many clients are very particular about the kind of symbologies that are associated with the assets that they have. In this case, say you want to showcase the existing infrastructure in dotted line, the existing structures in a specific color, the proposed infrastructure in a specific style, and a proposed pipeline in a specific style, and a proposed structure in a specific style. You'll be able to do it on the go. You can change symbols at this point of time. You can customize it, the look and feel of your infrastructure, whether it is parcel information, whether it's network information, whether it's point information such as lamp, light poles, fire hydrants. You'll be, once you bring the model, updated model into GIS space, you'll be able to stylize it as well. So this is very crucial for us, and thanks to Esri and the Autodesk partnership, this flow of data has become very, very seamless. I remember days in which we used to produce GIS data and then publish it onto the web. It was such a multi-step process that people were wary of such procedures. Now, as you see, the process that I'm showing you in the videos is the exact process that needs to be done. It is that simple. We have simplified the way in which we look at infrastructure. We've simplified the way in which we design infrastructure, and we've also simplified the data flow between GIS and BIM as well. So, I mean, it's all about making life easy or making life simpler when it comes to integrating two different huge platforms. I would say GIS is a science in itself. So when GIS is a science in itself, BIM is also a parallel science. So you need to be able to connect to the parallel worlds. So Autodesk has and Esri have done a brilliant job with this kind of integration that we see, and all the enhancements that we saw are available in today's date for consumption. So let me reiterate it again. I will not go through the videos again. What are the most key features that we saw as an improvement? Importing ArcGIS data has become simpler than ever for Civil 3D as well as InfraWorks, right? The save back facility is the single most valuable thing that you will find in today's software like Civil 3D and InfraWorks. And attributes, you'll be able to edit the attribute and see live changes and be able to publish it as well. These are huge changes for the infrastructure industry, right? And then adding conceptual models, of course, that was just a small add-in that they had to bring in, but it's seeing a lot of traction amongst our consultants. And adding custom attributes, probably this is a game changer. Now, when it comes to asset management, monitoring, and monitoring of assets, existing assets, this becomes a crucial feature in which how you link BIM information over to GIS information. GIS information, I wouldn't see many people utilizing the BIM aspects. From a administrative standpoint, they will only consume the GIS, information to be, improved or to be dismantled and new construction to be done. So this is a key feature that has been added going forward. And of course, the way you view, web information, where you stylize it and change symbologies, has also been made very, very simple. So this is where I want to stop for today. I request the moderator to open the questions for the poll. There are, please remember that there are a set of 4 questions that you need to answer. And I repeat it again, there are exciting prizes to be won for people who have answered all the 4 questions in the poll. So I'll give it a minute and I'll jump on to, as you see, the poll questions are open now. Please take a minute in order to answer the poll questions. So I'll give it a minute until I jump onto the Q&A. I hope almost all of you have completed the poll questions. So there is a number of questions that have come in. Please feel free to post in your questions. Okay. Going to the first question. Are these changes reflected live? A person named Bajrang Patil is asking me this question. Yes, these changes are reflected live. If you create a BIM model and push it to GIS, and you have the save back facility or publish to ArcGIS facility, whether it's in InfraWorks or Civil 3D respectively, yes, these changes will be reflected live. All the videos that were shown were done on actual GIS data and on actual BIM models, so that you have the confidence in pushing data to and fro from ArcGIS to Autodesk solutions and then back. Second question, can we add some asset data? Just a minute. I think I don't have the option of. Yeah, for the audience that are still around, please fill out the poll questions that are coming your way. Please do not miss out. You can have exciting prizes coming your way. Please do not miss out any poll questions. The second question is out, I believe. So please fill it out while I answer the questions. Can we have some asset? The second question is, can we have some asset data in Civil 3D and save it back to ArcGIS? Yes, as I showed you, your asset data, in this case, we showcased some pipe network. You can develop it in Civil 3D and publish it to ArcGIS. It's a 2-minute job. It doesn't take time. So this is for you, Satish. And save back. Will Esri web portal maintain versions of these changes from BIM interfaces? This is specific to the model that you have developed around BIM. In fact, the content that you've developed around BIM will be able to be seen in the Esri web portal specific to that particular model. Do we have two different licenses for Autodesk and Esri? Yes, see, Autodesk is the BIM platform and Esri is the GIS platform. Obviously, you will need to have access to Esri. You will have to register for Esri licenses as well. How about creating some property set data? Can we take 3D solid elements into ArcGIS with same asset information? See here, there is an ArcGIS web app which Autodesk and Esri are working together. At this point, it is still in the nascent stage, wherein you click on any model. I showed you a video in which you clicked on a particular model, say it was a bridge. It opened up a BIM 360 window to be able to be viewed. So 3D solid elements without intelligence may not be encouraged, but whole BIM models such as bridges, roads, buildings will be encouraged to be pushed to ArcGIS and be viewed from either BIM 360 or equivalent a common data environment platforms. So can we take 3D solid elements into ArcGIS with same data information? Well, Satish, again, the answer is the same. 3D solid elements may not be BIM elements as such. It needs to have some intelligence and properties associated with it. When you say, for example, in Civil 3D, when you export a particular corridor into as a 3D solid, it loses its intelligence. So it just becomes a 3D solid block. So you will need to consume this whole infrastructural model into ArcGIS and be able to link it with BIM 360 to be viewed. Can we take 3D solid elements into, okay. How about construction sequencing in ArcGIS? There's a lot of infrastructure data from Civil 3D. Can some chemical data, I didn't get you, Satish, some chemical data as well. Well, see, this is where Forge comes into the picture. If you want to be able to simulate a particular construction sequencing in ArcGIS, you will need a combination of Forge platform, ArcGIS to work seamlessly. I'm really not aware whether this can be done at this moment, but you have a number of 3D construction sequencing software available within Autodesk to be able to do that. On ArcGIS, they're just a GIS platform, so they may not offer it off the counter, but it can be achieved through a combination of Forge and ArcGIS applications. So while I answer the questions, please fill out the questions that are coming through, the poll questions that are coming through. Please do not miss out. How about, okay, is graphics card required? Of course, graphics card is required, Vasavi. So the question is coming from Vasavi. Yes, graphics card is required. And you can have a search called recommended graphics cards Autodesk. Those are the keywords in Google, and you'll find a link to have the relevant graphics card. Mostly it will be NVIDIA for CAD applications. How can we interact with chemical data with GIS? I didn't understand still chemical data with ArcGIS. Well, if you're talking about some information about the chemical composition of the underlying or geological composition of the underlying surface of the earth, you want to have some you have some GIS data around it, you can map it in the, as a parcel basically. Can analytics be performed on this? Shinu Matthew, well, analytics, it depends on where you want it in ArcGIS. It needs to be fine-tuned. What kind of analytics are you looking for, Shinu? If you can answer, Shinu Matthews asking me, can analytics be performed? Of course, it can be performed, but what kind of analytics do you require? It needs the Forge platform to develop such analytics to be displayed on a dashboard. If you're talking about IoT, how to prevent misuse? How to prevent misuse error in data being uploaded? Well, it is a kind of a single sign-on kind of an environment. Going forward, also Autodesk is moving in that direction. As you know, ArcGIS also you have a single sign-on kind of a system. It's up to your company to set up the right SSO logins to be able to have control on the data. Integration of IoT in InfraWorks. Shinu, I think InfraWorks, IoT in InfraWorks is yet to come. Probably that is where they're focusing as the next big change. Smart cities is our focus, and we'll provide you more information in further webinars. I'm sure I'm confident in a couple of months' time I should have more information on that, and we'll have a similar webinar to update. How about taking 3D solids from Civil 3D to ArcGIS along with custom dataset? Again, as I told you, Civil, I would suggest having Civil 3D corridors rather than having Civil 3D solids move to ArcGIS. Well, we are working on a web app with ArcGIS to be able to consume, now that Civil 3D has the BIM 360 support, we're working in a way in which we have Civil 3D corridors to be moved to ArcGIS, and then attributes to be able to be added to that. How about taking Revit models in ArcGIS, doing the same time frame videos using ArcGIS web template? Well, yeah, I mean, as I said, it is still in the research. This is where we want to go in the future. A POC has already been done from ArcGIS and Autodesk team, and it is functioning well, wherein you take Revit models into ArcGIS space or read Revit models in click a button in ArcGIS, and you will be able to view the Revit model in the BIM 360 space. So what is the accuracy of ArcGIS? Well, I mean, it depends on your survey data primarily. I mean, the way you've interpreted your survey data is as accurate information that you get from ArcGIS. In fact, ArcGIS, have no doubt, has one of the best accuracies in when it comes to GIS models. Can you make the workflow presentation for airport? Well, Prakash, workflow presentation for airport is basically the same thing. So again, you have a smaller model to tend to when it comes when you say you have existing networks, pipe networks. proposed pipe networks, how they interact with the existing infrastructure, it needs to be seen. Of course, we can going forward, we can also have workflow-based presentation in the near future for specifically for airports. Are there any points that you're looking for, or any value points that you're looking for, so that we can expand? Prakash, do let us know. In continuation to Bajrang's questions, when the data and changes updating live, what about authenticity? Well, you need not doubt on the authenticity, because you will have your team to work on it. I mean, it depends on what kind of trust you have in the team that is developing BIM models and to be published to GIS. So you have a single sign-on, in which you know who is uploading the content, and you can trace it based on that. Is the live updates applies to both pressure and gravity in pipe network? Yes. As of now, Soumya, yes, it applies to both pressure and gravity networks, is what I understand. Can we link some sort of HD images which is related to civil 3D model and then take it to ArcGIS federated model for sequencing videos? Well, Satish, I didn't understand this. Can we link some sort of HD images which is related to civil 3D model? And what kind of HD models are talking about? Please expand on that. Hi, can we reflect the ponds and swales which are modeled in civil 3D as pipe network? No, Niyant, Karnam, right now ponds and swales cannot be modeled as pipe networks in civil 3D. They'll have to be, swales will be corridors, ponds will be individual grading elements that can be showcased in ArcGIS. GIS plus BIM plus facility management workflows. Okay, that is the case, Prakash. I'll look into workflows specifically for GIS plus BIM and facility management. As you know, like GIS and BIM is still in the nascent stage. We are researching on a POC in which the correctness of the infrastructure models and the GIS models are being validated. Definitely an interesting workflow for us to work on. It is in fact a natural workflow, GIS, BIM and facility management. We'll be able to present you in a couple of months' time for airports as well. Chemical data, in the sense I have BIM elements in civil 3D using geotechnical model. Yeah, if you understand geospatial, geotechnical models to be underlined below the GIS models, yes, ArcGIS supports multiple layers and surfaces which can be displayed on the ArcGIS model as well. Are the new options available for all versions of InfraWorks? No. InfraWorks 2020.1 onwards, you have these features, Manasa. Without internet, ArcGIS will work? No, it will not work. ArcGIS is included in AC package. See, this ArcGIS connector is anyway included. It's a plugin that we have developed for connecting with ArcGIS data. It is available, but once you log into ArcGIS, you will also have to have an ArcGIS license as well to work with. So, coming to the end of the questions, could we upload MDM tagged asset information in ArcGIS? Rohan, I didn't understand your question. MDM tagged asset information ArcGIS, could you expand on that? It's really helpful finding the pipe routines by using GIS, but how is BIM connected, and in GIS platform can we see it? For realistic, it's useful only for any infrastructure we can use it. See, Badrinath, infrastructure we mean by both vertical and horizontal infrastructure, not only pipe networks. We mean buildings and bridges and roads as well. Going forward, we'll have more information as to how well we can integrate it into the BIM 360 platform, which can be viewed from the ArcGIS website as well, as I showed. So it's in the works. We'll have more information on that. If people are working in the same utility line as the same location, what will happen? Well, that needs to be updated from site. That comes to asset management, wherein the authorities have to update that information. Hi, is this GIS and BIM integration specific to buildings as a single entity, or can it be dealt with the flow plan level? Well, GIS to BIM integration, you can convert building spaces into GIS spaces. Definitely, you can have, say, for example, if there's an facility coordinator who wants to understand the number of cubicles, the area of cubicles in a particular building, it also can be converted into flow level GIS entities as well. The BIM models can be converted into flow level GIS entities. Srinivasan, if multiple people are working on the same utility at the same location, what will happen? Well, I mean, multiple people, they need to update it on a chronological sense as to who's working on what. The one person cannot be working on a single asset. So multiple updates can happen. It's not a problem. Can we attach GIS data from Esri to Revit directly or through Civil 3D? Well, the Revit workflow is through BIM 360. The model will be consumed through BIM 360. It needs to have the right coordinate system set up. Yeah, I wouldn't suggest bringing it to Civil 3D and then publishing it back to ArcGIS. It goes through BIM 360 itself because it has got the location intelligence. What is the meaning behind this year's user conference theme, geography, opening the world to everyone? Well, I'm not aware of this. It may not be an Autodesk-led event, Kumawat. If multiple, okay. Can we link some Excel asset data from directly into ArcGIS? That needs, that will be some customization that needs to be seen. We're still not there. Can I run ArcGIS Pro mode on one machine, more than one machine? Well, you'll have to check it with the ArcGIS team, Mr. Kumawat. I'm not aware of this. ArcGIS Pro information, Esri will be able to give you more information. Can we link ArcGIS to Revit from an effective topo surface? Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to view the entire model, I would suggest bringing in the Civil 3D ground model, pushing it into BIM 360, consuming it into Revit, and then, be able to save it into the BIM 360 environment in which your combined model will always be there if you're talking about land models or topo surfaces. Can we do a traffic diversion simulation in ArcGIS directly? No. Right now, well, it only provides you GIS level information, but simulation, I don't think ArcGIS does it. It has to be seen. Model data management, it's a plugin for Civil 3D where we can tag to 2D or 3D elements. Rohan, I'll need to look at it myself. Well, model data management plugins we don't deal with, but I'll see what information can be extracted from model data management for Civil 3D. So what does this model data management do, Rohan? Can you just expand on that? I mean, if you're currently using it. Okay, well, Rohan answers it. I think I've taken most of the questions and we are at the end of the Q&A session. Thank you so much for having patiently sat through the webinar, and thanks for all the questions that have come through. Great questions. Well, some of the answers I may have 2 months down the line or 3 months down the line. As we get progressions from our team, I will make sure that I'll keep you updated on this as well. Thanks a lot and have a great day. I hope you've answered all the poll questions. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.